Hey, Tom Winterstein here, ChartPros Founder. Today, our chart of the day is Citigroup, and usually when I see a chart like this, things that come to mind are flatliner. And typically, you wouldn't expect, or at least I wouldn't anticipate, a chart like Citigroup to be a flatliner. Typically, flatliner charts that come to mind are like Peloton or AMC, something that's had a parabolic rise and a meteoric fall. And so we see something very similar to that here with Citi. So what we're going to do, we're on the monthly time frame. We're just going to start plotting some support and resistance to see if we can make any sense of this chart. And we'll get that to snap right there. And I like to just take, highs, lows, things where there's been a significant turn. I always work from left to right. At one point that was an all-time high. It's easy to miss the lows there. We'll just keep working our way up. There's a little zone of interest. Just keeps working it up. So wherever I see a wick, I like to grab the tops of those. Wherever I see a particular turn, and I'll just keep working all the way through. I see another one right here. These down here, more of a recency bias. We'll grab that. We'll grab this. We'll take this one. Take that. Price hasn't seen 555 in over a decade. And we see as price comes down, it actually kind of respected some of the previous levels. And it's just kind of meandering around in here. So what does this mean? Since it's way down here, with all this historical information that's up here, here's another one I'll actually add, although not a factor anytime soon. And so from here, what I'll do is I'll just kind of zoom in, and it doesn't look like much. It's just been traveling between 14 and 82. That's a big range since 2009. So at this point, what I like to do is go down to a weekly chart and see if we can make any semblance of the price action history from here. And if there's any more support and resistance, we can add those. We'll put that one in there. The underbelly's down here, we'll put that. Another one, and this just gives me basically a timeline of historical price action. And keep in mind, price typically has a good memory. It'll remember levels. To a certain extent, and sometimes it respects it and sometimes it doesn't. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start layering in some other price action tools. We'll start with trend, and let's see what this gives us. We see where it was established, respected once, and we're flirting with another test. So let's take a look if there's any Fibonacci that can help us, and we'll go back to this low. I like to just go back and trace it, so as long as price will allow me to do that. And I'm going to turn on some additional fib levels here. These are the standards that I like to include on my charts for Fibonacci. And we see that we had a retracement down to the 61.8, and over a period of long time, it actually filled its second completion target up here at the 61.8. So that was from 2009 to 2019. So over a 10-year period, you'll see that Fibonacci and price action tools, can work over essentially any time frame. Whether it's 15 minutes, 1 hour, 4 hour, daily, weekly, monthly. And so we'll pull this up here, and we see we got a retracement all the way down to the 50. It's kind of held. That trend line wasn't there at the time, but what it does is it gives us another point of validation to put in another fib anchor, and let's see what we may or may not have from here. We'll come up here, we got a 50% retracement all the way up to the 61. It's kind of magical how this stuff works. So we'll pull that up, get a retracement down to the 61. Almost all the way up to the top, but not quite. But we can actually pull this up, and this will give us the swing fib. We'll turn this one off since it was already breached, and lo and behold, we got a retracement right here to the 78. So far this fib is holding. It's come down, tested it again. It's come down and broken down below it. So typically what I'll do at this point is I'll turn that fib off, but what I'll do is I'll mark that level with a support and resistance, just to kind of know that was there. We're just going to remove that fib. And that leaves us with support and resistance again. We can put in a couple of others right there, and this can kind of give us, as an investor or as a trader, particular levels of interest to the downside as well as the upside. As far as where it could go from a retracement standpoint, from a Fibonacci standpoint, we can do a bear fib for a traditional high to low. We'll turn on these others, and this is a personal preference for me. Whenever I use the bear, I like to turn that 78 into red. And so if price were to take off, here's some levels to the upside that it could potentially be going to. Let's see if we have any validated fibs that we could use here. Let me save this as a default. Thinkorswim's been a little quirky lately with its Fibonacci tools. So there's a retracement to the 61. I can use that. Here's another retracement. There's another retracement, but from here I get no more retracement, so I can take the impulse run all the way down to here. And so if price were to decide it wants to go back up to the upside, a potential target could be the 55 area. If price wants to continue falling, 38.76 is a potential level of interest, because it would actually tag this trend line as well too. So as a price action trader, that's my job, is to answer the question, where could price go? And that's different than trying to predict and say, where will price go? What I do instead is I'll anticipate where price could go. And sure, it might sound like a matter of semantics, but it's all about mindset. And I have no expectations in the market, but I can answer the question, where could price go? So there you have levels of interest for me to the downside would be between 38 and 40. I'd love to see if we can get a nice bounce off this trend line, and if we did, then we may see price rise back up to 45 as an initial target, and ultimately up to 55 or even higher. But we never know where price could go, but we're always trying to answer, where could it go.